Listen, I need to tell you something, and you are probably not going to believe me. My name is Vrek, and I have been teaching quantum combat theory at Stellar Forge Academy for the better part of 20 cycles now. I have seen students from every corner of the galaxy, Craxians with their forearms, Velthani with their telepathic abilities, even a few Gormath, though their crystalline biology makes them absolutely terrible at taking notes, let me tell you, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the day she walked through those doors. It was a standard morning. Well, as standard as mornings get when you are dealing with a facility that houses roughly 6,000 students from 240 different species. The cafeteria smelled like burnt Velthani spice cakes mixed with the sulfur that Croxians apparently consider a breakfast beverage. I was sitting in my usual spot scanning through the new student roster on my data pad when Professor Kelmath slithered over. "Did you see the admissions list?" Kelmath asked, his tentacles twitching in that way they do when he is excited or terrified. With Kelmath it is honestly hard to tell the difference. "I am looking at it right now," I said, not glancing up. 43 new students this cycle. Pretty standard numbers. Look at entry 72. I scrolled down. My eyes, both of them, focused on the line. Species designation, human. Origin, world, Earth. Name, Maya Torres. I felt my stomach drop. You know that feeling when you accidentally open an airlock while standing too close to it? Like that, but worse. "A human," I said slowly. "They admitted a human. They admitted a human." Kelmath confirmed, and now I could definitely identify his tentacle twitching as terror. Here is the thing you need to understand. Humans are not common in this part of the galaxy. In fact, they are downright rare. Their planet only joined the Galactic Council about 50 cycles ago, and most species still treat them like some kind of bizarre curiosity. You know, the way you might look at a creature that has too many teeth and not enough sense. But the stories. Oh, the stories. Humans who walked into active war zones to rescue complete strangers. Humans who survived in conditions that would kill most species in under 3 minutes. Humans who looked at a problem everyone else called impossible and said, "Hold my beverage," and then solved it, usually by doing something completely insane. The Council had classified them as a Category 7 adaptable species. For context, that is the highest rating. Most species cap out at Category 3. "She cannot be that bad," I said, trying to convince myself more than Kelmath. "She passed the entrance exams, right? That means she meets standard protocols." Kelmath's tentacles went completely still. "Eric, she scored in the 99th percentile on every single test." I put down my data pad. "Every test? Tactical analysis, theoretical physics, combat scenarios, diplomacy, cultural studies, engineering. Every single test. That is impossible. The tests are designed so that no one species can excel at all of them. The Croxians dominate combat, but fail at diplomacy. The Velthani ace cultural studies but cannot handle high-gravity engineering problems." Apparently, Kelmath said, and his voice had gone very quiet. "Humans do not care what is supposed to be impossible. I should have taken a vacation right then. Should have claimed some sudden illness and transported myself to the other side of the galaxy. But no. I had to be responsible. I had to stay." The first assembly of the new cycle happened at exactly noon. 6,000 students packed into the grand amphitheater, a massive space with environmental controls that somehow managed to keep everyone alive despite wildly different atmospheric requirements. I stood at the back with the other professors, watching as Headmaster Vord took the podium. Vord is a Thanelian, which means he stands about 9 feet tall and has a voice that sounds like grinding rocks. Very authoritative, very intimidating. Exactly what you want in someone running the galaxy's most prestigious military academy. "Welcome," Horn began, his voice echoing through the amphitheater, "to Stellar Forge Academy. You are the finest young minds that this galaxy has to offer. You have been selected from millions of applicants." Standard speech. I had heard it 20 times before. My attention drifted across the crowd, looking at the new faces, trying to spot the human. It was not hard. She sat in the middle section, surrounded by empty seats. Not because the section was not full, mind you, because every other student had somehow found reasons to sit slightly farther away from her. She did not seem to notice, or if she did not care. Maya Torres looked, well, human. She was small compared to most of the other students. maybe 5.5 feet tall if I was being generous. Dark hair pulled back in some kind of practical tie. Brown skin. 2 arms, 2 legs. The standard human configuration. She wore the academy uniform like everyone else, but somehow on her it looked different, more casual, like she had just grabbed it off a rack and thrown it on without caring about proper protocol. And she was smiling. Not a nervous smile, not an excited smile, a smile that said she knew something the rest of us did not. A smile that made my scales itch. This cycle, Bourne continued, we have students from 240 species. I expect you to learn from each other, to grow together, to become the leaders this galaxy needs. Maya Torres raised her hand. The entire amphitheater went silent. You do not interrupt Headmaster Vorhan. That is like rule number 1. Rule number 1 that apparently no one had told the human. Vortha's massive head turned toward her. Yes, quick question, Maya said, and her voice carried across the space with surprising clarity. The course catalog mentions survival training in hostile environments. How hostile are we talking? Like uncomfortable hostile, or actually trying to kill us hostile? I heard Kelmath make a small, choking sound beside me. Vord stared at her for a long moment. The survival training is designed to challenge you, to push you to your limits. So, actually trying to kill us hostile. Got it. Cool. Just wanted to clarify. She put her hand down, went back to smiling that same knowing smile. Vorn continued his speech, but I could tell he was rattled. The great Headmaster Vorn, veteran of 3 wars, administrator of the galaxy's finest institution, had been rattled by a 5.5-foot human who wanted to know if the Academy was planning to kill her. This was going to be a very long cycle. After the assembly, I had my first class, Advanced Tactical Theory. 40 students, all upperclassmen who had survived at least 2 cycles already. They knew the rules. They knew the expectation. I walked into the classroom and stopped dead in my tracks. Maya Torres sat in the front row, datapad ready, looking at me with bright, attentive eyes. I believe there has been a mistake, I said carefully. This is a 3rd cycle course, for advanced students. I know, Maya said cheerfully. I tested out of the first 2 cycles of tactical theory. Admissions said I could skip ahead. You tested out of 2 full cycles of military tactical theory. Yeah, the exam was pretty straightforward, actually. Straightforward. She had called the exam that made most students cry straightforward. I took a deep breath, reminded myself that I was a professional, that I had been teaching for 20 cycles, that I could handle 1 human student. Very well, I said, turning to the display board. Today we will be analyzing the Battle of Krell Station. Can anyone tell me the primary tactical error made by the defending forces? 3 hands went up. All Croxians. They love battle analysis. Cadet Thrawn, I said, pointing to the largest Croxian. The defenders spread their forces too thin across 3 platforms. Thrawn said in his deep, rumbling voice, they should have consolidated to 1 defensible position. A common interpretation, I said, but incorrect. Anyone else? Maya's hand went up. I should have ignored her. Should have called on literally anyone else. Cadet Torres. The defenders did not have a tactical error, Maya said. They had a strategic one. They were defending Krell Station because of its perceived value as a trade hub. But the attacking force did not actually care about the station. They cared about forcing the defenders to commit their fleet to a fixed position. The entire battle was a distraction. The real objective was 17 light-years away at the Meridian shipyards. The classroom went completely silent. I stared at her. How did you? I started, then stopped. That information is classified. That analysis was only declassified 6 cycles ago. Maya shrugged. I read a lot. The report is 4,000 pages long. In military technical language. Like I said, I read a lot. I looked at her for a long moment, and she looked right back. No fear, no arrogance, just calm certainty. I taught for another hour, but my hearts were not in it. Every question I posed, Maya had an answer, and not just correct answers. Insightful answers. Answers that showed she understood not just the what but the why. The kind of answers I would expect from a field commander with 20 years of experience, not a student on her first day. When class ended, the other students filed out quickly. Maya took her time gathering her things with that same casual manner. Cadet Torres, I said. A word, please. She walked up to my desk, still smiling. Yes, Professor Vrek. Why are you here? At the academy, I applied. Got accepted, pretty standard process. That is not what I mean, and you know it. You could be teaching some of these classes, your scores are beyond exceptional. So why are you here pretending to be a student? For the first time her smile faltered. Just a little. Just enough that I knew I had hit something real. I am not pretending, she said quietly. I am a student. I want to learn. Learn what? You clearly already know the material. She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice had changed, become softer, more honest. I know the theory, Professor. I have read the books, studied the battles, memorized the tactics, but I have never been in a real fight. I have never led a team through actual danger. I have never had to make decisions when lives were on the line. That is what I am here to learn. Not the what, how. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw something in her eyes that I recognized. The same thing I saw in every good soldier I had ever trained. Hunger, not for glory or power. Hunger to be better, to be ready. You are afraid, I said. Terrified, she admitted. My people are new to this galaxy. New to all of this. And based on history, when a new species shows up, things tend to go badly for them eventually. I want to make sure that when things go bad for humanity, we are ready, and that means I need to be ready. I felt something shift in my perception of her. She was not here to show off. She was not here to prove anything. She was here because she was preparing for a war that might never come, but that she refused to face unprepared. That is a heavy burden for one person, I said. Yeah, she said, and her smile came back, just a little sad around the edges. But someone has to carry it. Might as well be me. She left, and I stood there in my empty classroom, wondering what exactly the admissions board had unleashed on this academy. Word spread fast. By dinner, everyone knew about the human who had shown up Headmaster Vorthen and answered questions in advanced tactical theory like she had written the textbook herself. The cafeteria buzzed with speculation. Was she a spy? A prodigy? Some kind of military experiment? I sat with Kelmath and Professor Dren, a Velthani who taught xenobiology. I heard she arm-wrestled a Croxian and won, Dren said, her telepathic voice echoing in my head. That did not happen, I said tiredly. I heard she solved a quantum equation that has stumped researchers for decades, Kelmath added. Also, did not happen. Well, something happened, Dren insisted. The students are talking about nothing else. I glanced across the cafeteria and spotted Maya sitting alone at a table near the windows. She was eating something that looked disturbingly like synthetic protein paste while reading from her datapad. Not bothered by the stares, not bothered by the whispers. She is just a student, I said, though I did not quite believe it myself. Right, Kelmath said, his tentacles twitching with sarcasm. And I am just a professor who does not have 3 separate security alerts about her flagged in my system. I looked at him sharply. What kind of alerts? The classified kind. The kind that says her file has been accessed 17 times in the last 6 hours by different intelligence agencies. The kind that says there are people very interested in what she does here. That made my scales itch again. Why would intelligence agencies care about a student? Because she is not just any student, Dren said softly. She is human, and humans make people nervous. The next few days followed a pattern. Maya showed up to every class early, sat in the front, answered every question with unsettling accuracy. And slowly, very slowly, the other students stopped treating her like a dangerous curiosity and started treating her like, well, like someone they wanted to avoid losing to. Competition is the backbone of Stellar Forge Academy. Every student is ranked. Every class is graded on a curve. Every simulation is scored and posted for everyone to see. It breeds excellence, but it also breeds tension. And Maya Torres was beating everyone, at everything. The combat simulations were particularly brutal. Standard protocol had students form mixed species teams of 5 and run through various scenarios: hostage rescue, facility defense, asset extraction. The teams were randomized to force students to work with unfamiliar species and command structures. I was observing from the control room when Maya got her first assignment. Team 17. Her teammates were Cadet Thrawn, the large Croxian from my class; Cadet Cilia, a Valthani telepath; Cadet Gorex, a Gormath engineer; and Cadet Plex, a Jovalian pilot. Not a bad mix. Though Throne was known for being aggressive and Cilia was notoriously difficult to work with. The scenario loaded. Deep space station under attack by raiders, civilian population trapped in the central habitat ring. Team 17 needed to eliminate the raiders and evacuate the civilians before the station's reactor went critical. Time limit, 18 minutes. The simulation began. Immediately, Thrawn took charge. Cilia, you scan for civilian locations. Gorix, find us a way into engineering. X, get the shuttle ready for evac. Human, you stay back and provide covering fire. I saw Maya's avatar pause for just a second in the simulation. Then she spoke, her voice calm and measured. Negative. New plan. Throne, you and I go straight for the Raider Command Center. They are using the civilians as shields, which means they are concentrated in one area. We hit them hard and fast, break their command structure. Once they scatter, Cilia can identify civilian positions without Raider interference. Gorix, I need you in engineering immediately. The reactor is not going to go critical in 18 minutes. It is going to go critical in 9. Someone sabotaged the coolant system, and the simulation has not updated the timer yet. Plex, forget the shuttle. We will need you to manually override the docking clamps on the escape pods. They have been locked down. Silence in the control room. I checked the simulation parameters. She was right. The reactor was going critical in 9 minutes, not 18. It was a hidden variable designed to test adaptability. Students were not supposed to catch it until at least 5 minutes into the scenario. Maya had caught it in 30 seconds. How did you? Thrawn started. Trust me or do not, Maya said. But we are wasting time. Thrawn hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Then, fine. Your plan. Let us move. What happened next was, well, it was beautiful. In a terrifying sort of way. Maya and Thrawn fought through the raiders like a synchronized unit. She called out positions before enemies appeared, predicted attack patterns, used the station's layout to create choke points and ambush opportunities. Thrawn followed her lead, and I could see the exact moment he stopped questioning and started trusting. Cilia located civilians exactly where Maya said they would be. Gorix reached engineering with 4 minutes to spare and stabilized the reactor using a method that technically violated 3 safety protocols but absolutely worked. Plex got the escape pods online just as the first wave of evacuees arrived. 12 minutes. They completed an 18-minute scenario in 12 minutes with 0 casualties and full objective completion. The simulation ended. Team 17's score flashed on the display, 98 out of 100. The highest score in Academy history. The control room erupted in shocked conversation. I just stared at the screen, my mind's racing. Replay the scenario. I said to the technician, I want to see how she knew about the reactor. We watched it again, and on the third viewing, I saw it. A tiny detail in the background radiation readings. A minor fluctuation that most people would dismiss as sensor noise. Maya had glanced at it, processed it, and extrapolated the entire cascade failure in the time it took most students to figure out which way was up. That is not normal, Kelmath whispered beside me. That is not even genius level. That is something else. That, I said slowly, is what happens when you evolve on a death world where everything is constantly trying to kill you. You learn to see patterns. You learn to process threats faster than they can process you. Or you die. Terrifying, Kelmath said. Absolutely. I agreed. But here is the thing. Despite her abilities, despite the fact that she was outperforming students who had been training for cycles, Maya never acted superior, never bragged, never made anyone feel small. After that simulation, I watched her in the common areas. She sat with her team going over the exercise, pointing out what they did well, asking Thrawn about Croxian combat doctrine, asking Cilia about telepathic combat coordination, learning from them, even though she had just led them to a record-breaking victory. And slowly, very slowly, the other students stopped being afraid of her and started being curious. It was Thrawn who asked the question everyone was thinking. I was passing by their table in the library when I heard it. Why are you really here, Maya? You could be anywhere, doing anything. Why a military academy? Maya looked up from her data pad, considered the question carefully. Because the galaxy is bigger and scarier than most humans realize. She said that because my people have a terrible habit of jumping into fights we do not fully understand because we think we are helping. I want to make sure that when we jump, we land on the right side, and that we know what we are doing when we get there. You think there is going to be a fight? Celia asked, telepathically. I think there is always a fight, Maya said. The only question is whether you are ready for it. Throne nodded slowly. You would make a good Croxian. Maya laughed. Actually laughed. I will take that as a compliment. It is. 3 weeks into the cycle, Headmaster Vorthak called me to his office. I went with a sense of dread, because nothing good ever came from being summoned to the headmaster's office. Voron sat behind his massive desk, looking more tired than I had ever seen him. Professor Vreck, he said, we need to talk about Cadet Torres. Sir? I have received 17 formal requests from various military branches asking for detailed reports on her progress. I have had 5 different intelligence agencies try to recruit her. The Galactic Council has opened an inquiry into whether her mission represents a security risk, and I have had 4 separate professors come to me saying she is the best student they have ever taught. He paused, fixing me with his intense stare. You have been teaching her the longest. Tell me the truth. What exactly are we dealing with here? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Sir, I said finally, I think we are dealing with the future, and I think the galaxy is not ready for it. Borson was quiet for a long moment. Neither am I, he said softly. Neither am I. That night I found Maya in the observation deck. She stood alone, looking out at the stars, her reflection ghostly in the transparent aluminum. Cadet Torres, I said. She turned, smiled. Professor Vrick, cannot sleep either. Too much on my mind. I walked up beside her, looking out at the same view. You are causing quite a stir. I noticed. It bothers you? A little, she admitted. I just wanted to learn, to be ready. I did not want to become some kind of, I do not know, symbol. Too late, I said, not unkindly. Whether you wanted it or not, you represent something. Your entire species. Every human who comes after you will be measured against what you do here. She was quiet. Then, no pressure, right? I laughed. Could not help it. No pressure at all. We stood there for a while, 2 beings from wildly different worlds, looking at the stars and thinking about the future. Can I ask you something, Professor? Maya said eventually. Of course. Do you think we belong here? Humans, I mean. In a galaxy. I turned to look at her. Really, look at her. I think, I said carefully, that the galaxy does not get to decide whether you belong or not. You are here. That is enough. The only question is what you do with it. Maya smiled. And this time it was not that knowing smile, it was something softer. More hope. Thank you, she said. For what? For treating me like a student. Not a threat. Not a curiosity. Just a student. I felt something in my chest tighten. Because she was right. Despite everything, despite my fear and confusion and uncertainty, I had tried to treat her fairly, to see her as what she was. A young person trying to find her place in a universe that did not quite know what to do with her. You are welcome, I said. We stood there a while longer, watching the stars wheel by outside, and I thought about the future, about what humanity would bring to this galaxy. The chaos, yes. The unpredictability, the absolute refusal to accept limitation, but also the hope, the determination, the fierce, burning need to be better. I did not know if the galaxy was ready for humanity, but watching Maya Torres stand there silhouetted against infinity, I thought maybe, just maybe, humanity was exactly what the galaxy needed, even if it killed me to admit it. The incident happened on day 47 of the cycle. I should have seen it coming, should have noticed the warning signs. But hindsight, as the humans say, is always perfect vision. It started in the combat arena during a standard sparring session. Physical combat training is mandatory for all students, regardless of species or specialization. The logic is simple. Sooner or later, every officer ends up in a situation where their technology fails and all they have left are their wits and their bodies. The arena is a massive space with variable gravity controls and environmental settings. On this particular day, we had it set to standard galactic gravity, which is about 0.8 of Earth normal. A compromise that does not quite suit anyone but does not actively kill anyone either. I was supervising, along with combat instructor Haval, a Croxian who had fought in the border wars and carried the scars to prove it. Haval is tough, fair, and absolutely ruthless when it comes to training. Students either learn fast or learn painfully, usually both. The class had been divided into sparring pairs. Maya was matched against a student named Rexon, a Croxian in his second cycle. Rexon stood about 7 feet tall, had 4 arms and mass that probably exceeded Maya's by a factor of 4. Maybe 5. I saw the matchup and immediately moved closer. Just in case. Standard rules, Havel announced, his voice booming across the arena. First to 3 clean strikes or submission. Non-lethal contact only. Excessive force will result in immediate disqualification and disciplinary action. Begin when ready. Rexon and Maya faced each other across the sparring circle. Rexon was grinning, all 4 arms flexed and ready. He was not a bad student, not cruel, but he had that look young fighters get when they think they have already won. Maya stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, watching him with those calm, analytical eyes. You can yield now if you want, Rexon said not unkindly. Save yourself the bruises. Appreciate the offer, Maya said. But I am good. Thanks though. Rexon shrugged, then moved. And I mean moved. Croxians are not slow. 4 arms means multiple attack vectors. And Rexon had been training since he was old enough to stand. He came at Maya like a landslide. All power and momentum. Maya sidestepped. Just barely. Rexon's first punch missed her head by maybe 2 inches. His second punch missed her ribs by less. His third and fourth punches hit nothing but air because Maya was not where she had been a half-second ago. She moved like water, like smoke. Never where the attacks landed, always somewhere else. Somewhere unexpected. And she was not running away. She was circling, analyzing, learning his pattern. Rexon growled in frustration and increased his speed. Punches came faster, harder. Any one of them could have ended the match if it connected, but none of them did. Then Maya moved. I barely saw it. One moment she was evading. The next, she was inside Rexon's guard, too close for him to use his reach advantage. Her hand moved in a precise strike to a nerve cluster on his lower left arm. The arm went numb, dropped before Rexon could react. She had swept his leg, used his own momentum against him, and put him on the ground with his remaining functional arms pinned. Yield? She asked, not even breathing hard. Rexon stared up at her in complete shock. Then slowly he started laughing. I yield, he said. By the void I yield. Where did you learn that? My species practices something called martial arts, Maya said, helping him up. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. You get pretty good at it when your entire planet is trying to kill you and you need to save energy for fighting the planet. Teach me, Rexon asked, his eyes bright with excitement. Sure, Maya said, grinning. But warn you now, it is going to hurt. That should have been it. A good match. A learning experience. Students respecting each other's abilities. But then Cadet Zorn opened his mouth. Zorn was a Thanalian, same species as Headmaster Vorn, and he carried himself like someone who thought his species' superiority was a universal law. He had been watching from the sidelines, and his face had that particular expression that meant someone was about to say something stupid. Of course the human won, Zorn said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Humans cheat. It is what they do. Probably studied Rexon's patterns beforehand. Probably had the match rigged. The arena went quiet. That particular kind of quiet that happens right before something very bad occurs. Maya turned to look at Zorn. Her expression had not changed. Still calm. Still analytical. But something in her eyes had gone very, very cold. You want to say that again? She asked softly. You heard me, Zorn said, stepping into the sparring circle. Humans are cheaters and liars. Everyone knows it. Your species talks about honor and cooperation, but you are just primitives pretending to be civilized. You do not belong here. I started moving toward them, but Havel held up a hand, stopping me. He was watching Maya with intense focus. Cadet Zorn, Maya said, and her voice had gone flat, emotionless. I am going to give you one chance to apologize. Not to me, to humanity. One chance. Or what? Zorn sneered. You will cheat at me? Go ahead. Prove my point. Maya nodded slowly. Instructor Havel permission to engage in an unrestricted sparring match with Cadet Zorn. His eyes widened. Cadet Torres, unrestricted means no rules, no protections. Serious injury is possible. I know what it means, sir. Zorn, Havel said, turning to the Thanalian. Do you accept these terms? Zorn laughed. Absolutely. Going to enjoy teaching this primitive her place. Then I am an idiot for allowing this, Havel muttered. But I am also curious. Matches sanctioned. No time limit. Fight ends with submission, unconsciousness, or death. May the void have mercy on both of you." The other students scrambled back, giving them space. "I felt my heart's hammering! This was bad!" The Nalians were bigger than Croxians, stronger, and they had armored skin that could turn blades. If Maya got hit even once, the damage could be catastrophic. Zorn and Maya faced each other. Zorn was nearly 9 feet tall. Maya barely came up to his chest. "Last chance," Maya said. "For you, maybe," Zorn replied. Then he charged. What happened next will probably be analyzed in combat classes for the next 100 cycles. I watched it happen, and I still do not fully understand how she did it. Zorn came in like a battering ram, all mass and power. Maya waited until he was 3 steps away, then moved. Not sideways, forward, directly into his charge. She slid under his reaching arms, came up behind him, and struck the back of his knee with devastating precision. Zorn stumbled. Before he could recover, Maya was on his back, arm around his throat in a hold that cut off his air supply. Zorn roared and tried to grab her. She shifted position, using his own armor plates as leverage points, staying in the one spot he could not reach. His face started changing color as oxygen deprivation set in. "Yield," Maya said calmly, "or I keep going and you die. Your choice." Zorn tried to throw himself backward, tried to crush her against the ground. Maya rolled with it, maintained the hold, and somehow ended up with even better leverage. "Yield," she said again, and this time there was an edge in her voice. Not anger. Command. The voice of someone who had already decided how this was going to end and was giving him one last chance to choose the smart option. Zorn's hand slapped the ground 3 times. The universal signal for submission. Maya released him immediately, stepped back, put distance between them. Zorn collapsed to his knees, gasping for air, his face a rainbow of colors that probably meant severe oxygen deprivation in Thanalian biology. The arena was dead silent. Maya walked over to where Zorn knelt. She did not loom over him, did not gloat. She crouched down so they were at eye level. "You are right about one thing," she said quietly, but her voice carried in the silence. "Humans are primitives. We barely got off our planet 50 cycles ago. We do not have your technology. We do not have your history. We are new here, and we are scared, and we do not know if we belong." She stood up. "But we are not cheaters. We are not liars. We are survivors. And if you mistake survival for cheating, then you have already lost. Because when things get bad, when the fights get real, when everything is falling apart and all you have left is your will to keep going, humans will still be standing. Not because we are better than you, but because we do not know how to quit." She offered him a hand. Zorn stared at it for a long moment. Then slowly he took it. Let her help him to his feet. "I apologize," Zorn said, and he sounded like he meant it. "To you, to humanity. I was wrong." Maya nodded. "Apology accepted. Now get to medical. I might have bruised your throat." Zorn left, escorted by 2 other students. The rest of the class just stood there, processing what they had witnessed. Pavel walked over to Maya, looked down at her, then incredibly, he smiled. "Where," he asked, "did you learn that hold?" "Earth has a combat sport called mixed martial arts. People from different fighting styles compete against each other. That specific hold is called a rear naked choke. It is very effective against opponents with superior strength because it uses their own blood flow against them." "Teach it to the class," Pavel said. "Sir, teach it to the class. Right now." "That is in order." So Maya spent the next hour teaching a room full of alien students how to apply a submission hold that humans had been using for centuries. And they learned, because whatever else she was, Maya Torres was a good teacher. Patient. Clear, willing to demonstrate again and again until everyone understood. By the time class ended, I had watched her go from dangerous outsider to respected peer in the span of 90 minutes. It was terrifying and beautiful in equal measure. That evening, I found myself in Headmaster Vord's office again. This time I was not alone. Pavel was there. So was Professor Dren, and Kelmath, his tentacles twitching nervously. "We have a situation," Vorthound said without preamble. "The Galactic Council has decided to conduct an inspection of our training protocols. Specifically, they want to evaluate whether our curriculum properly prepares students for modern warfare." "Marnairs." "When?" I asked. 2 weeks. They will be sending a team of military observers to watch a full-scale combat simulation. They want to see our best students in action. Let me guess, Kelnath said. They specifically requested that the human be included. Borsun's expression was answer enough. This is a test, Dren said telepathically. Not of the Academy, of her. They want to see what humans are really capable of. It is worse than that, Vorth said. I have been informed, off the record, that there are factions within the Council who believe humanity should not have access to advanced military training. They view humans as too aggressive, too unpredictable. This inspection is their opportunity to prove it. So if Maya fails, if she fails, Vorth finished, it will be used as justification to ban humans from military academies across the galaxy, and possibly to restrict Earth's access to defensive technologies. The weight of that statement settled over the room like a physical thing. That is not fair, I said. One student cannot represent an entire species. Fair or not, Vorn replied, it is reality. So here is what we are going to do. We are going to design the most challenging simulation we can create. We are going to push every student to their absolute limits. And we are going to let the Council see exactly what Stellar Forge Academy produces. And if Maya cannot handle it, Havel asked, then we deal with the consequences, Vorthan said grimly. But between you and me, I do not think that is going to be the problem. I think the problem is going to be explaining to the Council why a first cycle student just outperformed their expectations by several orders of magnitude. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Vorn assembled a team of 20 students, the best the Academy had to offer. Maya was included, along with Throne, Cilia, Rexon, and 16 others representing a dozen different species. They were designated as Task Force 17. The scenario was designed by a committee of senior instructors and was classified as Level 9 difficulty. For context, Level 5 scenarios have a 50% failure rate among graduating students. Level 9 scenarios are typically reserved for special operations training and have an 80% failure rate. The setup was this. A colony world called Vorthas Prime had been invaded by an unknown hostile force. The planetary defense grid was offline. Communication was limited. Task Force 17 needed to insert via drop pods, locate and neutralize the enemy command structure, restore the defense grid, and evacuate as many civilians as possible before orbital bombardment rendered the planet uninhabitable. Time limit: 90 minutes. Simple in concept. Nightmare in execution. I watched from the control room as the task force assembled. They had spent 2 weeks training together, learning each other's strengths, building trust. Maya had been elected team leader by unanimous vote, which had surprised exactly no one. The Galactic Council observers sat in the back of the control room. 12 beings representing 12 different species, all watching with expressions that ranged from curious to openly hostile. One of them, a Velthani named Trath, leaned toward me. Professor Brick, you have been teaching the human. What should we expect? Honestly, I said, I have no idea. And that terrifies me more than anything. The simulation began. 20 drop pods streaked through the simulated atmosphere of Vorthas Prime, targeting different insertion points around the colony's capital city. Communications crackled with check-ins as students confirmed successful landings. Maya's voice cut through the chatter. All teams, sound off, status reports. One by one, the teams reported in all successful insertions. No casualties. So far, so good. Cilia, Maya said. I need a telepathic sweep. Look for civilian concentrations and enemy positions. Thrawn, take your team and secure the power station. We cannot bring the defense grid online without power. Rexon, your team heads for the communications array. We need eyes and ears. Everyone else, with me, we are going after the command center. How do you know where the command center is? One of the observers asked quietly. On the display, Maya's team was already moving through the ruined city streets, with purpose and direction. She led them to a building that our scenario designers had carefully hidden as a nondescript warehouse. I do not know, I admitted, but watch. Maya's team breached the warehouse. What they found inside was not a warehouse at all. It was a heavily fortified command bunker disguised to look abandoned, exactly as the scenario designers had intended. Most teams would have wasted 40 minutes searching before finding it. Maya had walked straight to it. The firefight that followed was intense. Simulated enemies poured from the bunker. Maya's team moved like they had been fighting together for years, not weeks, covering angles, supporting each other. adapting to threats in real time. And Maya was everywhere, not fighting on the front lines, which is what most students would do. She was coordinating, directing, seeing the battlefield like a chess game and moving her pieces with absolute precision. "Throne status," she called out during a brief lull in the fighting. "Power station secured," Thrawn's voice came back, "but there is a problem. The main reactor has been sabotaged. I can get auxiliary power online, but it will only give us 60% capacity." "60% is enough," Maya said. "Get it done. Rexon, talk to me. Communications array is toast." Rexon reported. "Looks like it was hit by artillery before we even arrived. I can jury-rig something, but it will take time." "How much time?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." "You have 10, Maya said. "Improvise." "That is impossible," Rexon started. "Then I guess we are about to find out what impossible looks like when you do it anyway," Maya said. "Move." I saw Rexon's avatar pause for just a moment. Then, on it, Maya's team pushed deeper into the command bunker. The defenders fought hard, but they were designed to be tough, not unbeatable. What made the scenario so difficult was not the combat, it was the time pressure and the multiple objectives that all needed to be completed simultaneously. 45 minutes in, things started going wrong. Thrawn's team came under heavy attack at the power station. Rexon was running out of time on the communications repair, and Cilia reported that the civilian concentration was larger than expected. Evacuating them all would be impossible. Maya did not hesitate. "Cilia, prioritize children and injured. Get them to the extraction point. Everyone else will have to shelter in place."
"Throne, I am sending you reinforcements."
"Hold that power station at all costs. Rexon, forget the full repair. I just need 5 minutes of signal."
"Can you give me that?"
"Maybe," Rexon said, "if I completely bypass the safety protocols and use the emergency broadcast system." "Do it." The observers in the control room were leaning forward now, completely absorbed, even the hostile ones. 60 minutes in, Maya's team reached the enemy command center. What they found was a surprise. A very unpleasant surprise. The enemy commander was not a simulated AI. It was another student, a 5th cycle student named Corvan, who had volunteered to play the opposition force. Corvan was brilliant, ruthless, and had set up a defensive position that should have been impenetrable. "Well," Corvan's voice came through the simulation, "the famous human, I have been looking forward to this. Wish I could say the same," Maya replied, "but I am kind of busy. So here is how this is going to work. You are going to surrender. Your forces are going to stand down, and we are all going to walk away from this." Corvan laughed. "And why would I do that?" "Because in about 90 seconds, Rexon is going to get the communications array online. When he does, I am going to broadcast your position to every remaining defense platform in orbit. And then those platforms are going to turn you and everything within a half-kilometer radius into a crater." Silence. "Then, you are bluffing. The scenario does not allow orbital bombardment of active command centers. Civilian casualties would be too high." "You are right," Maya said. "The scenario does not allow it, but the scenario also did not account for the fact that you set up your command center in an abandoned industrial zone with zero civilian presence within 3 kilometers, which means there are no civilian casualties to worry about, which means I can absolutely call down fire on your position and sleep just fine afterward." More silence. I checked the scenario parameters. She was right. Corvan had chosen a tactically sound position for defense, but in doing so he had isolated himself from the civilian population. The scenario rules would absolutely allow orbital fire in this situation. "Rexon," Maya said calmly, "you ready?" "Signal is live," Rexon confirmed. "Orbital platforms are locked on and awaiting your command." Corvan's voice came back, and this time it was missing the confidence. "You would actually do it? Risk destroying the command center and all the intelligence inside?" "In a heartbeat," Maya said, "because this is not about capturing you. It is about saving civilians. And right now, every second I spend talking to you is a second those civilians do not have. So I am going to count to 5. 1, 2. "Acknowledged," Corvan said quickly. "Forces standing down. We surrender." "Smart choice," Maya said. "Team, secure the prisoners and extract all intelligence you can in the next 5 minutes. Then we are gone." The simulation continued. 70 minutes in, Thrawn reported the defense grid was online and operating at 62% capacity. Cilia had successfully evacuated 843 civilians to the extraction zone. Maya's team had captured the enemy command center and recovered critical intelligence. At 87 minutes, Task Force 17 lifted off from Vorthas Prime with all objectives completed and only minor casualties. A few simulated injuries. No fatalities. The simulation ended. The control room erupted in shocked conversation. Final score flashed on the display. 96 out of 100, the highest Level 9 scenario completion rate in Academy history, and they had done it with 3 minutes to spare. I turned to look at the Galactic Council observers. Their expressions ranged from impressed to completely stunned. Trek, the Velthani who had questioned me earlier, was staring at the display like he had just witnessed something impossible. That, he said slowly, was extraordinary. That, said another observer, a Croxian military commander named Horth, was a human showing us exactly what her species is capable of, and I, for one, am not sure if I should be relieved or terrified. Headmaster Vorn stood up. Honored observers, you have now witnessed what Stellar Forge Academy produces. Students who can think critically, adapt rapidly, work across species boundaries, and lead under impossible pressure. This is what we teach. This is our standard, and yes, Cadet Torres is exceptional. But I would argue that she is exceptional because we gave her the environment to grow, not despite it. Headmaster Vorn, Trath said carefully, I believe I speak for all of us when I say that humanity has more than earned their place in this institution. The question now is not whether they belong, but how many more like her are waiting on Earth. Thousands, I said quietly, maybe millions. Humans do not produce just one Maya Torres. They produce millions of people who refuse to accept limitations, who see impossible as just another challenge to overcome. That is what makes them terrifying, and that is exactly what the galaxy needs. The debriefing lasted another hour. The council observers asked questions. Lots of questions. About human psychology, about their training methods, about their approach to problem solving. And through it all, Maya sat there answering honestly and directly, showing them that she was not some singular freak of nature. She was just a human being, doing what humans do. Afterward, when the observers had left and the other students had gone to celebrate, I found Maya in the observation deck again.
Our spot, apparently.
You know what you just did, right? I asked. Won a simulation, she said, but she was smiling. You changed the entire galaxy's perception of your species in 90 minutes. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Maya was quiet for a moment. I had help. 20 other students who trusted me, who believed in the plan even when it sounded crazy. This was not me, Professor. This was all of us. But you led them, because someone had to. She turned to look at me. That is the thing about leadership, right? It is not about being the best. It is about making everyone else better, about seeing what they can become and helping them get there. I looked at this small human who had turned my academy upside down in just a few months, who had challenged every assumption I had about what students could achieve, who had shown me that maybe, just maybe, the future was going to be stranger and more wonderful than I could have imagined. You are going to do great things, Maya Torres, I said. Maybe, she said, or maybe I am just going to keep showing up and trying my best, and hoping that is enough. For humans, I said, it always seems to be. 3 days later, the Galactic Council released their official report. Stellar Forge Academy was commended for excellence in training. The ban on human students was not just denied, it was officially condemned, and applications from Earth increased to 300% in the next cycle. Maya Torres went on to graduate top of her class. She served with distinction in the Galactic Defense Force, and eventually she came back to Stellar Forge Academy as an instructor, teaching the next generation of students how to be better, how to think differently, how to see impossible as just another word for not yet. I retired 5 cycles after she graduated. But I still visit sometimes. Walk the halls, watch the new students stumble through the same lessons I taught for decades. And sometimes when I am in the observation deck, looking at the stars, I think about that first day, when a small human walked into my classroom and proceeded to turn everything I thought I knew upside down. The galaxy is bigger now, more connected. Humans are everywhere, bringing their chaos and their brilliance and their absolute refusal to accept the word no. And yes, it is terrifying. Yes, it is unpredictable, but it is also beautiful. because Maya Torres taught me something important, something that I should have known but needed to see to believe. The future does not belong to the strongest species, or the smartest, or the oldest. It belongs to the ones who show up, who try, who refuse to quit even when everything says they should. It belongs to the survivors, and humanity. Humanity is very, very good at surviving. I am Vrick. I teach quantum combat theory at Stellar Forge Academy, and I have seen the future walk through my classroom door. Trust me when I say this, the galaxy will never be the same.
And
Honestly, I cannot wait to see what happens next.